Hey, what's up? Dave with Brazos Barbell. Today we're going to go over bench press grip and some of the ways, some of the things that we can look at to optimize some of the other cues, some of the other techniques that we're going to be using as far as the bar path, the elbow flare, and things like that. So first off, I think there's a lot of good information. I think a lot of times people, when they're making videos about bench press grip, are trying to correct some of the errors that are commonly had. The most common error, I'd say the worst error people have, is when the bar is too far up in somebody's hands, when it gets too close to their fingers. So the main thing that we're going to be trying to accomplish with the bench grip is going to be that it's going to be stacked on top of the forearm. So the worst thing you can do is really get that displaced a long way away from your forearm. It'd be like the bar when you're squatting not being on top of your feet. It's going to be extremely hard to really put a lot of force into the bar that way. So the bar rolling way up into your fingers is a huge problem, obviously. So a lot of times when people are making videos, they're telling you to get it lower in your hand, and all those things are totally accurate. But I think sometimes they get misinterpreted so far that they become a problem in the other direction as well. So when we're talking about getting the bar lower in your hand, we're wanting the bar to be stacked on top of the forearm, and the lower it gets, then it becomes displaced. We were saying that it would be displaced on it wouldn't be on top of your forearm anymore if it gets too far into your fingers. The same thing is true as it gets lower into your hand if that wrist is perfectly straight. If your wrist is perfectly straight, that bar is going to have a hard time staying on top of your forearm and ends up getting more on the other side of your wrist as well. So when we're gripping the bar, one of the cues that I've heard and I really liked a lot is to pretend that your forearm ends at your wrist and that your hand is just a nub and your hand doesn't even exist. So if we can start off with that and have you just resting the bar on top of the nub of your forearm, and then the bar grip happens around that's going to be a pretty good grip from there. So my wrist is going to be broken back a little bit, but the bar is going to be sitting right on top of my forearm. So the wrist straps are beneficial to help maintain that position, but they're not at all necessary. So that grip should be a strong grip on its own because the bar isn't really moving in either direction. It should be sitting right on top of your forearm and should be a strong grip there. Another big issue is going to be, and even I'm a proponent of elbow flare and getting some internal rotation on the way up. So another common grip would be what's called the Japanese grip, and I think that creates problems as well, to where we're stuck in this internal rotation through the whole movement, and it can be hard on your shoulders, it can be hard to get the bar low enough, and obviously there's mobility issues just to even get your arms fully extended if our hands are really internally rotated. So for most people, starting off with just a natural grip to where you put the bar square in your hand and you can wrap your hand around it, and we end up a lot more centered, and then we'll work a whole lot better from being able to touch low. So a slightly advanced part of this, and I'm a proponent of being able to lead with your elbows. When you get down to the bottom of the bench, I want my elbows slightly in front of, or I say in front, but what I'm saying in front, I'm saying my elbows are closer to my hips than what the bar is. So from there, I'm able to press back and get the bar back on top of my shoulders effectively. We do want the bar centered on top of the forearm, but if there's going to be any deviation, I'd rather it be slightly more sitting towards the fingers so that I'm able to press the bar backwards effectively. So it shouldn't be much. It should still be on top of the forearm and not getting really deep into the fingers, or else I'm going to be losing a whole lot of power. So we'll go through some of the videos of me benching and what that really looks like, and I'll be working up to some of the heavier stuff today. So we'll be able to see what it looks like and how having that bar stacked on top of my forearm and keeping my elbows a little closer to my hips really allows me to press the bar back effectively and to get the most out of it, instead of having it either get displaced towards my hips by having it too straight, or just losing a lot of power by having that bar too far up in my wrist. So the first thing that we'll see here is going to be exactly what I was just talking about, is that the bar is sitting right on top of my forearm here, and we'll see that maybe a little bit better in the next clip. But my elbows are in front of the bar, but if you draw a straight line from the bar to my elbow, it's at a slight diagonal, but the bar is still straight relative to what my forearm is doing, and so that's going to be a big part that we'll see later on in being able to transfer power into the bar. So with this next clip, it really shows that better on my right arm, the one that's on the left side of the screen here, that the bar is going to be sitting right on top of my forearm no matter what my elbows are doing. So even though my elbows are leading the way, we can still see, particularly in that right arm, that it's really not changing. It's not rolling back into my wrist, and it's sitting, like I said, right on top of my forearm, even though it does appear to be getting kind of deeper into my hand. So that's going to be the main thing with this, is that the bar is stacked on top of your wrist, regardless of what that makes your hand do. So if it's too deep in your hand, it's not in your wrist anymore. If your wrist is too straight, then it's going to be on the other side of your forearm as well. So that's the main part of it. I think people try to get their wrist too straight to make it look pretty, but then that creates weakness also. So stacked on right on top of my wrist. So I do some sets of 8 here, and like I said earlier, the wrist straps are there to help make that forearm be dead. So I'm really trying to make it to where my hand doesn't have to do much. I do grip the bar hard, but the forearm isn't there to keep my wrist from falling backwards or really doing anything crazy. It's almost reinforcing that feeling that my forearm ends at my wrist and that my hand is just a stump right there. So my forearms lead the way, where we can see that that bar is not really moving in my hand at all. It's just going to be sitting on top of my wrist, and that position in my hand doesn't change regardless of what my elbows are doing. So this allows me to, if it were too low in my hand, I wouldn't be able to press it back like I'm doing right now, and I have to touch higher, which is going to be more challenging, I think. So the other problem obviously would be getting too high in the hand, and then I'm just losing force. I'm not able to put as much effort straight into the bar. So these were all some pretty easy sets here, and it all illustrates the point of where that bar needs to be, regardless of how intense the reps were. I'd be doing an exact same rep if it were more maximal. So hopefully that video was helpful for you. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.